The year is 2025 and the global trade landscape is once again ablaze with the flames of a trade war. The tension is palpable, and the stakes have never been higher. Former U.S. President Donald Trump, known for his aggressive economic policies, has reignited his trade conflict with China. His rhetoric is as fiery as ever, and his actions are causing ripples across the globe. This time the stakes are higher, the rhetoric is sharper, and the potential consequences are even more profound. The world is watching closely, aware that the outcome could reshape global trade dynamics. The world watches with bated breath as two economic titans lock horns, leaving many to wonder, will this latest skirmish escalate into a full-blown global recession? The uncertainty is causing widespread anxiety. Trump's decision to escalate tariffs on Chinese goods has sent shockwaves through the global economy. Markets are reacting with volatility, and businesses are feeling the pressure. This move, coupled with his unpredictable approach to trade negotiations, has injected a significant degree of uncertainty into international markets. Investors are on edge and the future seems more unpredictable than ever. Businesses are left scrambling to adjust their supply chains, investors are wary, and economists are closely monitoring the situation for signs of a broader economic downturn. The ripple effects are being felt far and wide. The ramifications of this trade war extend far beyond the borders of the United States and China. Global supply chains are being disrupted, and international relations are being tested. As the world's two largest economies, their actions have ripple effects that are felt across the globe. The interconnected nature of modern economies means no country is truly isolated from these developments. Emerging markets heavily reliant on trade with both countries are particularly vulnerable to the negative impacts of a protracted trade conflict. The stakes are high and the world is watching closely. Trump's latest move in the trade war is a study in contrasts reflecting his unpredictable yet strategic approach to international relations. On the one hand, he has imposed a steep tariff increase on Chinese goods, raising existing rates to a staggering 125%, a move that has sent shockwaves through global markets. This aggressive action is clearly intended to pressure China into making concessions on trade practices that the U.S. considers unfair, such as subsidies and market access restrictions. Trump has long accused China of intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, and currency manipulation, and he views these tariffs as a way to level the playing field, ensuring that American businesses can compete fairly. On the other hand, Trump has offered a temporary reprieve to nearly 60 other countries, including members of the European Union, Japan, and Canada. He has announced a 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs that were tailored to each country's trade surplus with the U.S., giving these nations a chance to negotiate better terms. These nations now face a flat 10% tariff on their exports to the United States, a significant reduction from previous rates. This strategic maneuver suggests that Trump is attempting to isolate China on the global stage, while simultaneously strengthening ties with other key trading partners, creating a coalition of allies. This two-pronged approach highlights the complex geopolitical calculations at play in this trade war, balancing aggression with diplomacy. Trump is not simply seeking to reduce the U.S. trade deficit, he is also aiming to reshape the global trading system to favor American interests, ensuring long-term economic dominance. To fully grasp the magnitude of this trade war, we need to delve into the intricate dynamics that define the economic exchanges between these two global giants. It's crucial to understand the sheer volume of trade between the United States and China, which has been a cornerstone of their economic relationship for decades. In 2024, total trade in goods between the two economic powerhouses reached a staggering $582.4 billion, a testament to their deep economic ties. While this figure represents a significant decrease from previous years, it still highlights the substantial economic interdependence that exists between the two nations. This interdependence is evident in the complex supply chains and logistics networks that facilitate the movement of goods across the Pacific. The U.S. trade deficit with China, a persistent issue in their trade relationship, has been a key point of contention for Trump, who has frequently cited it as evidence of unfair trade practices. In 2024, this deficit stood at $295.4 billion, underscoring the imbalance in trade flows. This imbalance, driven in part by China's role as a global manufacturing hub, has significant implications for both economies. It has fueled Trump's protectionist policies, aimed at reducing the trade deficit and promoting domestic manufacturing. He argues that by imposing tariffs on Chinese goods, he can encourage American companies to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S., thus revitalizing the domestic economy. This approach, he believes, will reduce the trade deficit and create more jobs for American workers. However, critics of Trump's approach argue that tariffs are a blunt instrument that will ultimately harm American consumers and businesses. They contend that tariffs will lead to higher prices for imported goods, making everyday items more expensive for American households. This is particularly concerning for lower-income families who may struggle to afford the increased costs. Furthermore, they argue that tariffs will disrupt established supply chains, leading to inefficiencies and increased costs for American businesses. This disruption could potentially lead to job losses in sectors that rely heavily on Chinese imports, further complicating the economic landscape. Trump's approach to trade negotiations is often characterized by his unconventional tactics and his unwavering belief in his ability to secure favorable deals. He has repeatedly stated that his ultimate goal in imposing tariffs is not to punish China, but rather to bring them to the negotiating table and force them to agree to more equitable trade terms. Trump has also defended his decision to impose tariffs by arguing that they will ultimately benefit the U.S. economy. He contends that tariffs will protect American jobs, reduce the trade deficit, and encourage investment in domestic manufacturing. He believes that the short-term pain of higher prices and potential job losses will be outweighed by the long-term gains of a more balanced and reciprocal trading relationship with China. However, many economists and trade experts remain skeptical of Trump's claims. They argue that his protectionist policies are based on a flawed understanding of how global trade works, and that tariffs are more likely to harm the U.S. economy than help it. Section 5. America First, but at what cost? Trump's supporters argue that his America First trade policies, while disruptive in the short term, are necessary to protect American jobs and industries from unfair foreign competition. They point to the potential for tariffs to revitalize domestic manufacturing and reduce the United States' reliance on Chinese imports as evidence that Trump's approach is working. However, the potential benefits of Trump's trade war must be weighed against the very real costs that are already being felt by American consumers and businesses. The tariffs have led to higher prices for a wide range of goods, from washing machines to soybeans. This increase in the cost of living is putting a strain on household budgets, particularly for low and middle-income families. Moreover, the tariffs are disrupting established supply chains, forcing American businesses to scramble for alternative suppliers and absorb higher costs. This uncertainty is making it difficult for businesses to plan for the future and is dampening investment and hiring. In some cases, the tariffs are even leading to job losses, as companies are forced to scale back operations or relocate production overseas to avoid the higher costs. The Dragon responds China's stance and countermeasures. China has not taken Trump's tariff hikes lying down. In retaliation for the U.S. tariffs, China has imposed its own tariffs on a range of American goods, including agricultural products, automobiles, and chemicals. These retaliatory tariffs are designed to inflict economic pain on American businesses and pressure Trump to back down from his aggressive trade policies. China has also sought to portray itself as a responsible actor in the global trading system, contrasting its approach with Trump's unilateralism. Chinese officials have repeatedly called for dialogue and negotiation to resolve the trade dispute, and they have sought to strengthen trade ties with other countries such as those in Europe and Southeast Asia in an effort to reduce their reliance on the U.S. market. While China's economy is not immune to the negative effects of the trade war, its leaders appear willing to endure short-term pain in pursuit of long-term strategic goals. They are betting that Trump's unpredictable and often contradictory approach to trade will ultimately backfire, undermining U.S. credibility and strengthening China's hand in the global economy. A World on Edge: Global Economic Implications and Expert Opinions. The U.S.-China trade war is not just a bilateral dispute, it is a global economic shockwave that is being felt around the world. The International Monetary Fund has warned that the trade war could shave as much as 0.8% off global economic growth by 2025, and other organizations have issued similarly dire predictions. The trade war is creating uncertainty and volatility in global markets, making it difficult for businesses to plan for the future. This uncertainty is weighing on investment and hiring, slowing economic growth. The trade war is also disrupting global supply chains, as companies are forced to find alternative suppliers or relocate production to avoid tariffs. This disruption is adding to costs and delays, further dampening economic activity. The World Trade Organization has expressed deep concern about the escalating trade tensions, warning that they could lead to a breakdown of the rules-based trading system that has underpinned global prosperity for decades. The WTO has urged the U.S. and China to resolve their differences through dialogue and negotiation, rather than through unilateral action and retaliation. Can the center hold? The looming threat of a global recession. The US-China trade war, combined with other geopolitical risks such as Brexit and rising tensions in the Middle East, has raised fears of a global recession. While the global economy is still growing, albeit at a slower pace than in recent years, there are growing concerns that a recession could be triggered by a sudden shock or a confluence of negative events. A global recession would have far-reaching consequences, leading to job losses, business failures, and a decline in living standards around the world. It would also likely exacerbate existing social and political tensions, potentially leading to unrest and instability. While a global recession is not inevitable, the risk is real and growing. Policymakers around the world are closely monitoring the situation and are taking steps to mitigate the risks, but their ability to avert a recession may be limited. The outcome of the US-China trade war will be a major factor in determining whether the global economy can avoid a downturn. A fork in the road, navigating the uncertain future of global trade. The US-China trade war represents a pivotal moment in the history of globalization. It is a stark reminder that the rules-based trading system that has underpinned global prosperity for decades is under threat. The outcome of this trade war will have profound implications for the future of the global economy and for the relationship between the United States and China. If the US and China can find a way to resolve their differences through dialogue and negotiation, it could pave the way for a more balanced and sustainable form of globalization. However, if the trade war continues to escalate, it could lead to a fragmentation of the global economy, with countries retreating into protectionist blocs and the benefits of trade and investment diminished. The stakes are high, and the path forward is uncertain. The world is watching and waiting to see which path the US and China will choose. The future of the global economy may depend on it.